This video guides you through a reflective awakening, combining ancient wisdom from Marcus Aurelius and modern psychology. Learn how to master your emotions before the world demands your attention. Good morning. Let's begin your day like a Stoic. Before the world wakes, pause. Feel that moment before thought returns, before your phone lights up, before the noise begins. This is your first victory. You woke up aware. Most people open their eyes and fall straight into the storm. You take a breath. Remember, you don't control the sunrise. You don't control what messages will arrive, what moods others will bring, but you can control how you meet them. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. So before the rush begins, whisper to yourself, I'm alive, and I will meet the day with discipline and calm. That is not optimism. That is training, because optimism can fade, but discipline endures. The first test of every day is invisible. It begins the moment you want to stay in bed. You feel the warmth of comfort, and the mind says, just 5 more minutes. Epictetus warned about this. You become what you give your attention to. If you train yourself to delay, to hesitate, to bow to ease, then your character follows. But when you rise, even when you don't want to, you've already conquered the hardest battle, the one between impulse and intention. The alarm wasn't your enemy, your comfort was. A Stoic morning begins with a reframe. Every emotion you feel, irritation, fatigue, dread, is an impression, not truth. Zeno of Citium taught that philosophy is a medicine for the soul. Your first dose is this. This day is not happening to me. It's happening for me, to strengthen me. When traffic slows you, it trains patience. When someone speaks harshly, it tests composure. When plans change, it invites adaptability. Every inconvenience becomes resistance training for the mind. Smile, not because life is easy, but because you've been chosen to practice. You own more wealth than kings of old, light, clean water, the ability to listen to wisdom across centuries. Seneca once wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Look around. Air, movement, thought. These are gifts you didn't earn, yet receive daily. So before checking messages, say, I'm grateful for another sunrise. Let me earn this day. That single line, let me earn this day, reshapes your mindset from consumption to contribution. Modern life tempts you. Notifications, sugar, validation, comfort. Stoics knew the antidote: delay gratification. Chrysippus called self-control the architecture of virtue. Every time you postpone an unnecessary pleasure, you train freedom. Example, before scrolling your feed, finish your breath routine. Before coffee, drink water mindfully. Before words, find silence. Each small act whispers, I command myself. And the day begins not with dopamine, but with dignity. Stand before the mirror, not to judge your reflection, but to meet your commander. Ask, what kind of person do I want to be by nightfall? Visualize composure amid chaos. See yourself forgiving, creating, persisting. Then say aloud, whatever happens, I will not let anger write my story. Because storms will come, emails, delays, people projecting their pain. You are not their echo. You are the calm before the thunder. Some will say suppressing emotion isn't healthy. They're right if suppression means denial. But Stoicism isn't suppression, it's transformation. A Stoic doesn't hide emotion, he harnesses it. Like fire contained in a forge, emotion becomes power. Anger becomes assertiveness. Fear becomes awareness. Sadness becomes compassion. The Stoic path doesn't erase humanity, it disciplines it. And that discipline, not denial, builds peace. Between impulse and action lies your sovereignty. When you feel triggered, stop. Count 5 slow breaths. In that pause, you reclaim choice. Seneca advised, "No man is free who is a slave to himself." Freedom is not the absence of restraint, it's mastery of reaction. So when tension rises today, smile inwardly and think, "Here's my chance to practice freedom." That mindset turns every conflict into training. You live in a world of noise, 1,000 invisible pulls on your attention. But remember, every distraction is a vote against your peace. The Stoics lived surrounded by chaos too, empire politics, wars, plagues, yet they found serenity through focus on what they could control: thought, effort, virtue. You don't need a monastery. You need moments of clarity between notifications. When you hold your phone today, ask, "Does this serve my purpose or steal it?" That single question can save hours of your life. Now, breathe deeply again. Inhale responsibility. Exhale excuses. Say to yourself, "Today I serve my highest self." This is not performance. This is alignment. You don't have to win every battle, only show up with virtue. Courage when it's easier to hide. Patience when it's easier to rage. Discipline when it's easier to indulge. That's mastery, not perfection. Marcus Aurelius led armies and still wrote nightly about humility. Epictetus was born a slave and taught emperors. Cleanthes worked nights hauling water and by day studied philosophy. If they could find peace amid empire and hardship, you can find peace amid Wi-Fi and deadlines. Their lesson? The external world is not the obstacle, your perception is. Reframe and the world transforms with you. Now, pause the video for a moment. Write in the comments, "Today I will master myself." Not for metrics, for memory. So that when you scroll back weeks from now, you'll see proof. You started walking the Stoic path. And you're not alone. Thousands reading this right now are choosing the same discipline, the same breath, the same sunrise. When things go wrong, and they will, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "Why not me?" Marcus reminded himself daily, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Acceptance is not surrender, it's clarity, the ability to see reality as it is and still choose virtue. So if plans fail today, nod and say, "The universe is training me for something greater," because perhaps it is. You don't have to. Stoic fate is not destiny written by gods, it's cause and effect. A logical cosmos where everything interconnects. Believing in fate simply means trusting that what happens can serve your growth, if you choose to interpret it wisely. Even chaos can be a teacher. The Stoic doesn't ask for control, he asks for composure. Visualize your day. Emails, meetings, delays, laughter, mistakes, they're all neutral. Like clay, they become beautiful or broken depending on your touch. So shape them with patience. Add form with attention. Polish with gratitude. That's art. That's philosophy in motion. If this morning talk grounded you, don't just move on. Join our circle. Every dawn, someone here listens with you. Every night, someone reflects just like you. Subscribe, not to a channel, but to a practice, because philosophy only lives when we live it together. And tonight, when the world grows silent again, you'll remember this moment, how you began the day with clarity. If you fail, forgive yourself. If you succeed, remain humble. If you forget, return tomorrow. The Stoic life isn't a performance, it's a return. Each morning, begin again. Repeat softly, I am awake, I am aware, I am free. I will not rush, I will not envy, I will not fear. I will act with reason, I will live with virtue. This is your creed. Carry it quietly, live it loudly. Before you close this video, write one word in the comments that defines your intention today. Courage, calm, focus, discipline. It's not for me, it's for you. Each word is a seed, and together we're growing a forest of disciplined minds. The world awaits, not to crush you, but to sculpt you. So walk into this day like a Stoic, head high, heart steady, mind clear. Remember Zeno's first lesson: man conquers the world by conquering himself, and you've already begun. If this talk helped you find calm this morning, don't let it end here. Return. Each sunrise is another chance to train your mind, to strengthen the calm inside you. Subscribe, not for the algorithm, but to stay on the path. Every video here is another session in your training, another breath of discipline, focus, and peace. So come back, sharpen your reason, quiet your storms, and let's keep building a mind that no chaos can break.